First, as I mentioned, Margaret Alaimo. She was named the Director of Athletics and Recreation for the Bears last September, bringing over 30 years of experience to St. Joseph's, primarily at the Division I level at Long Island University, less than a mile from St. Joe's. Most recently as the Deputy Director of Athletics and Senior Women Administrator, she helped cultivate a department that has seen much success over tenure, winning over 60 Northeast Conference titles and producing numerous award winners at the conference and regional levels, in addition to Olympians, All-Americans, and professional athletes. A basketball standout herself, scoring over 1,400 points combined at her alma mater, St. Francis College, and the College of New Rochelle. She's also a member of the St. Francis College and the CHSAA Hall of Fames. Please welcome our new Director of Athletics, Margaret Alaimo.
Moment where I will talk about myself, and I will try not to go on too long. I'm getting up there in my years, so I guess my experience is I shudder when I hear 30 plus years at my previous institution, and then I realize when I look in my image here that I am getting old. So I also think that Coco is getting old too, because I'm here in class of 2000, class of 04. So at least I'm in good company here. So yeah, so as Anthony said, I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, the Marine Park area, off of Flatbush Avenue, although back in the 70s and 80s growing up there, we never referred to it as the Marine Park area because Brooklyn is the borough of churches. So I was from St. Thomas Aquinas Parish, known as a basketball parish. It's had some pretty good basketball players that have gone through school there and went on to do some, have some Hall of Fame careers, AKA Chris Mullen. I was one of the female gym rats. I'm a few years younger than him, but we all grew up in the same area. So, you know, it was sports was heavily emphasized in the parish and in my family. I have two older brothers that were standout baseball players, Powell Memorial Academy in Manhattan before it closed. And then also a sister that played some sports. So just a great area to grow up in, great experiences there. And then I went on to Stella Maris High School in Rockaway. And I guess I'm not ashamed to admit that I went there because of the basketball program. There were some girls in St. Thomas Parish that were a couple of years older than me, and they all played at Stella. And they became role models for me on and off the basketball court. So I kind of followed down to Rockaway Beach, and I'm not going to lie, a half a block from the ocean, that attracted me as well. So had a great experience down there, and had my first connection with the Sisters of St. Joseph, ironically enough. And they had a huge impact on my life. They reinforced everything that my parents had been trying to tell me. So they were an extension. So from home to school, I had it 24/7. I think I began to know then that the environment, education itself, and how it related to sports and vice versa was that potentially could be my career. But back in the 80s, you know, it wasn't a career for women. So I kind of just left it on the back burner. From there, I got caught up in the going away to college. You know, I was recruited by some local schools and a couple within the tri-state area. I ended up going away to school for 2 years, as Anthony mentioned, and quickly realized that I missed Brooklyn and I missed home and my family. So I came back and went to St. Francis, and that was a pivotal decision in my career. I didn't know it then, but I had a wonderful experience there. I played 2 years, and then that's where I got my start in coaching, and it was just by chance. But I think that's really how it all started. And when you go to St. Francis as a business major that I was, the goal when you graduate is to get a job with the Brooklyn Union Gas Company. Unfortunately, I did get an offer and accepted, and I thought I was going into a career in business. And then I got a call from LIU. LIU at the time had no females on staff, and they were trying to look and replicate what was happening in St. Francis just 2 miles away. Saw my Brooklyn ties, my ties to the CHSAA. And so at 23 years old, I was offered the head coaching position. I did barely even had to interview for the job. So I couldn't understand it at the time. I thought I was ready, but that's how I got my career started. And back in the day, that's really how women got into this profession, was through the coaching ranks. And the timing was good. And, you know, from there, I enjoyed the coaching, but there was more to it. I saw that very quickly. I had other duties assigned by the athletic director, and I was kind of skeptical of that. But in the end, it ranged from home event management to driving the vans to fill them up for gas, so the tennis team could go to practice or to their games. So I had a lot of other duties, and from there my career took off a little bit. And I found my niche. Through all of this and the Brooklyn Ties and St. Thomas, I actually met my husband. We were both coaching CYO basketball at St. Thomas, trying to give back to the community. Now 29 years later, we were together for 4 years, and we've been married for 29. We have 3 adult children now, 24. Elizabeth is 24, Claire is 21, and Danny's 20. So they're all deeply embedded in college athletics. My oldest daughter is an athletic trainer at Johns Hopkins University, and my son and daughter are both student athletes in college. My daughter's a golfer, and my son is a diver. So we live and breathe it. It's 24/7.
Okay, you started several weeks into September, so probably 2 or 3 weeks into the soccer and volleyball season, or all of the fall season, which is a challenge in and of itself. But talk a little bit about how that transition was, and also making and acclimating to the Division III environment from the D1 level.
It was an interesting time because I was trying to kick off the season at LIU, close it down, and kind of pack 32 years in just a short period of time. But I was assured, and certainly found that when I got there, everything was up and running smoothly. So in that case, there wasn't a lot to do. So my plan all along, though, was to just, just kind of listen, watch, talk to people, and not really get in the way, stay out of people's way, deal with issues as they happened, and start to look towards 2021 and beyond, and what needed to be tweaked, what we could continue doing. So it was a good time, as much as, James was able to get the season going. But again, as Joe mentioned, for other reasons, that's the value of having Anthony and some other staff. Oscar, is our athletic trainer, and then our other assistant AD, Hope Mitchell. So the operations were in good hands, so I didn't have much to worry about there. The adjustment to Division III was interesting. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was able to see right away the balance that the students have in Division III is tremendous, because Division I, it's 6 days a week, 10 months a year. Division III, there's a little bit slower pace. While things are crowded into their season, there's time to breathe at different points through final exams and holidays. It just had a nice pace, and the trickle down is, for me and for the, my life changed, and I adapted a different pace. I was working a lot more evenings because we had part-time coaches, just trying to observe and meet and talk with them. They're running from full-time jobs and then coming in, and all the full-time people at St. Joe's have gone home. So we tried to have the staff stay around a little bit later and have more interaction. So that was an adjustment, but a necessary one, and was easy to see that was going to be really important. So that, the building program part, we're going to get to that. Still trying to assess, and now the COVID craziness, it's kind of put a pause on that a little bit, because our new normal coming back from COVID will change or maybe delay some things. But at the end of the day, we're focusing on the culture of our department. And then we really want to focus on a daily basis on student athlete experience. And I think those things right there, if those two things are in place, and we hire the right coaches, then the winning will come. There's no doubt in my mind. And it's similar to what we did down the block when we really had to build a program that was really struggling through the mid-90s. And we were able to do that. It just takes patience. It takes engagement on a daily basis, and just connecting with people. And so that's really what we're trying to focus on.
Joe, as I mentioned earlier, you're the longest tenured coach in our department, now well over 20 years. So, and even as a student athlete yourself, you've seen a tremendous amount of change and growth in athletics overall. tell us a little bit more about that change and being able to witness it firsthand and to be a part of it.
I guess going back 30 years, when I entered as a freshman, the only sport was basketball. By the time I was a senior, our current women's coach, Tom Flahive, who's also an alum, he brought back the women's basketball program. So, obviously, I guess the two biggest things is the expansion of the program itself now to, the number of teams we have being in the NCAA, and of course the Hill Center. I think back when I played, there were no stats. Father Sullivan would add the points up, and I guess it was a good thing because nobody knew my shooting percentage and nobody knew how many turnovers I had because I think I was colorblind some of the games I played. But and then that progressed. When I started coaching, we would keep the stats by hand, and after every game, we would calculate the stats. And and really, and I don't want to embarrass you, Anthony, but the expansion of the program, the Hill Center, and really Anthony, because when he was being introduced, you heard everything that he does, and really, he took the stats away from me. We used to make the game programs ourselves, make photocopies in school before I left school on the way to, Bishop Loughlin, Brooklyn Tech. Anthony took all that over, and just the exposure he's given the school and what he's done for the athletes. So really, those are three big things in our program, and Anthony really deserves that credit the same way we talk about the expansion, the Hill Center. Anthony has been that instrumental to our program. So I think that,
I appreciate that.
I'm being sincere, and those are things that really have helped the program to grow to what it is now, to, the teams, the full slate of teams to be in the NCAA, which has expanded our athletic department, and the Hill Center itself.
You're losing Dr. Lukasz Saigon from your side, who's been an assistant for the last 11 seasons. Quick shout out to Lukasz for being a tremendous supporter for not just the men's basketball team, but also athletics as a whole. And looking at the majority of your assistant coaches for the better part of about 15 years or so, everyone has been an alumnus. And I think that talks a lot about the pride that you instill in the team and the men that represent St. Joe's. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, first, before I mention that, Lukasz has been great. I want to echo those sentiments. Played for us for 4 years. He went to med school, became a doctor, and is working in a hospital while he's coaching. His passion is, unmatched. He's unbelievable. It is a fear going into next year. I worry about it because, we butted heads a lot, but there was a mutual respect, and we knew our goal was the same, and there was a tremendous amount of respect for each other. But, that'll be a tough loss for us. But I really want to go back, and, I'm glad Luke's on the call. Anthony, I know you were at the Hall of Fame. Luke is here. I think the best way I can answer that question, when I started in 2002, I'm 29 years old. I think Luke was 20. And after every game, Luke would give me a call at home. There were no cell phones, so he's calling my home phone at night. So I'm going home, and my wife, there's a phone. She said, I thought you just came home. You're in school all day, you're going to basketball, you come home, now you're getting a phone call. And I would talk to Luke some nights, we'd be on the phone until midnight. And, I remember that first year we won at Brooklyn College early. And that was a great win for us, a little bit of a statement for us. Spoke to Luke after that game. We lost a tough game to City Tech at home in January, and talked to Luke after that game. And Luke was great because it was, Coach, that was a great game tonight. We played well, or, what, Coach, I could have done better. Never ever pointed out the fault of a teammate, always himself. But, and I know it's a little long-winded here, but I'll get to answering that question. The next night, Mount St. Vincent's triple overtime, we win, and, Luke is calling how happy he is that one of his teammates hit that shot. And the common denominator in every one of those phone calls is Luke ended it with, I love you, Coach. And I grew up with 5 older brothers. You didn't hear the word love in our house a lot. I think if I would have told one of my brothers I love him, I probably would have got smacked in the head. And now I'm 29 years old. I'm still a kid myself. And I had this kid tell me he loved me. And the feeling was mutual. And I would tell him, I love you too. And, I think really Luke planted the seed for what our program has been over the past 2 decades, because there's been a lot of love in our program. Sometimes it's tough love. You get in a guy's face and, but that is what it is. That's what comes with competitive sports. But, we're a college that has played like a grammar school with a family environment, the parents at the game and things, siblings and friends. And there is really a lot of love in our program. And I think guys want to be a part of that. And unfortunately, you only get 4 years as a player. And we've been fortunate to have guys who have wanted to come back. And really, I really do give Luke a lot of credit for that. And, he made me a better person. He helped me to help our program. And then he was a part of the program as a coach as well. And I really think that best answers the question. We've had guys who just love being a part of a program that they loved when they were playing.
One of the contenders in the skyline and making the playoffs the last 2 seasons. What have been the keys to building the program and finding that success?
It's definitely been a process for sure. I'm not old now, but I was pretty young when I started. So I wasn't much older than some of the players. So it was definitely, developing the relationships with the girls. And we were a small team when we started. It was the first year in the skyline. So it was just about developing from there and recruiting from there. So for me, it was about going out and finding the right players. I come from a strong program. I played at Ithaca College. So I knew what I was looking for. I was looking for people that, were like my teammates, that, had the same ideas in mind and were student athletes that, were going to do well in the classroom. We're also going to, succeed on the field as well. So that was definitely something that we went out, immediately to start looking for and started recruiting pretty early on. But we wanted people that were going to come in, build our culture and, have similar goals as the coaching staff. And I have my one coach who's been with me since my first year, my pitching coach, Rich Morrow. So him and I are pretty thick-headed Italian. So we really went out there and didn't let people tell us no for the most part.
That's great. And kind of touching a little bit on, I mentioned in your intro also the success you've been able to find in recruiting the right players, but also ones that are great in the classroom. And you yourself are an educator, as is Joe. Talk a little bit about that, how you also instill that in your players and how they've been able that you actually, we haven't announced it yet, but you've also had the highest team GPA in the spring. So congrats to that.
So for us, it was, like I said before, it's about finding student athletes. I always explain to people coming in, I want you to come and I want you to love the program and love the coaches here, but I want you to, if you cannot play softball tomorrow, still want to be a part of St. Joe's and the school aspect of it and have, something that's going to support your future goals of your career. Unlike men, and most Division III athletes, you're not going to go on and play the sport professionally, and especially with softball, you're not playing it and making any money from it, at least if you are going to go play professionally. So it's about going and getting both the academic side of it and enjoying the athletic side of it, but knowing what your end goal is. So I know something with us that draws a lot of kids to us is we have nursing, we have big education programs, and those are 2 programs in some schools that they won't let students partake in athletics and also do those things because there's a lot of conflicts. So I think that, helps us stand apart from a lot of people, and it helps make sure we're gauging the right kids that are coming into our programs.
Looking at this year, obviously the pandemic kind of put a halt to your season abruptly, and you were one of the few spring sports that was kind of a little bit well underway. You started your spring break trip. You had a strong showing down in Florida. You played 2 dates up north, and then you saw your season come to a halt. Kind of talk a little bit about how the team handled that, and also what you did to kind of wrap up the season, and how do you keep them going for making another strong run at it next year.
Yeah, so it was definitely heart-wrenching, but as you said, we were a lucky team. We have 12 games under our belt. We had a really early start going down to Florida when we did. I never go that early, and I'm just going to call it lucky for this year. And we had one of our strongest starts down there. We were going to be a strong team this year, and our girls knew it. They knew they were going to make some noise in the conference this year, and they were excited for that. We finally had some freshmen starting to, find their place and get comfortable with playing, which is a big, everybody who's played before as a freshman, it's not the easiest thing to just come in, and especially if you're starting. But it was tough. Obviously, our seniors, it was the toughest on. And for me, they were actually my first recruited class. So it was hardest on me because I really wanted them to finish strong and to see where they went. But as most things that, that my team does, they handled it gracefully, and they were there and supported each other.